I've actually written one of those pieces. My piece was about W.G. Grace. Yeah, I read about W.G. Grace as because I think that W.G. Grace is such a weird figure. I remember someone from the MCC was upset that I can't remember what it was, but I'd done something. I can't remember if it was around Rachel Hayhoe Flint or something where they were like, "Well, you've mentioned Rachel Hayhoe Flint here, but you haven't mentioned that that she was." I don't want to say pro-apartheid because that's probably too strong a stance. But Rachel Hayhoe Flint believed cricket should be played in South Africa during apartheid. She tried to get the second Women's World Cup into South Africa, and in the first Women's World Cup, they actually had a tournament. They actually had a team that was essentially South Africa, but it was called the International 11. And they were very upset with me. And I said, well, you work for the MCC. How often do you mention that W.G. Grace said women shouldn't play cricket? And he's such a frustrating figure for cricket. I don't think people understand how much better he was. I think I'm trying to remember the stats, but there was a particular year in which W.G. Grace made 11 first-class hundreds, and the rest of cricket in England made 8. He was that much better than the game, better than Bradman was. And he also is the reason that the game is how it is. He was the first person to work out. So before W.G. Grace, players would play on their front foot or they would play on their back foot. So when we talk about front foot and back foot players, they literally had front foot and back foot players. W.G. Grace was the first one to basically work out, well, wait a minute, if the ball's pitched here, I come forward. And if the ball's pitched here, I go back. He essentially invented modern batting. On top of that, he was a global megastar before we had global megastars of sport. I can't remember how many countries he went to, but he traveled around. But he was also a grifter. He was untrustworthy. He was obviously, I mean, he made KP look like, he made KP look like the least egotistical man you'll ever meet. He played as an amateur, but absolutely made more money than any of the professionals, yet still talked down about them. If he wasn't involved in match fixing directly, there are certainly serious allegations of certain things that he did that are baffling. There's obviously the fact that, he tried to intimidate entire teams, umpires, everyone. He was this ridiculous figure, but also cricket needed someone like that at that time to explode the game from what was essentially a game that was it was almost a street game with a bunch of posh people playing it. It needed to explode into the big sport that we have today, and W.G. Grace played a big part in that. So that's why I picked him. I mean, I still like watching Mohammad Azharuddin bat. Obviously, not an ideal role model in any particular way.